Today we're going to be doing some DC Universe miniatures game, and this is something that we've touched on once or twice before, and we'll show you the armies and we'll have a brief description as to how it's all going to work. Today we've got the Justice League led by Superman, also with Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and Wonder Woman. So they each bring with them unique sets of skills and abilities. And what we'll do is we'll just quickly run through the game and we'll take it from there. So each of the characters has their own individual abilities, as well as on occasion there's a team card or a team ability that can affect multiple characters. And everything comes with a cost, which is called levels, just to be different. And today, for example, with Wonder Woman, this is the set of her stats, where you can see she's got various numbers based on the abilities there. Power are a number of points that you can spend in a round for all of your actions. Speed, generally a walking and running. Sometimes there's a third one for a fly. Strength, level 5, gives you the terrain units that you can pick up and throw and so on. Attack is your attacking score, so your base attack level starts at 7, then you add 2d8 and you have to match the defense. We have the size, which is 2, which is a standard human, agility 8, stamina 11, and willpower 9. They're special stats that come in play when you need to make certain rolls to get out of the way of something, to jump over something, or to wake up early, or to avoid certain effects. You may have to roll underneath those values with 2d8. We also have the skills, and there's the defenses. So the skills are unique to their, not so much unique in total, but just for each character has their own set of skills. Acrobat allows her to re-roll agility checks. Regeneration means that she gets to regain. Soldier allows her to make a re-roll when she's waking up, or if she's knocked out or collapsed in some way. Master Fighter means that she gets to re-roll one of her attack dice. Rage means that she gets 2 additional power, because it's Rage 2, once she's woken up from a KO result, knocked out. The defenses, we have physical, energy, supernatural, and then mental. Her base powers for attacking, and they come in 3 different colors. You've got the green, the blue, and the red. The green means that as long as you can keep paying the points, you can keep using it. The blue means once per turn, and the red means once per game. So something may have a points cost, but if it's only once per game, you need to pick the right time to do it. Then we have special powers, and here we have whether they're reactive or active, and sometimes passive, which means they're just always on. And so if they're reactive, you obviously react to the scenario. So if she wants to, once per round, make an agility check, she can cancel an attack using her shield. Once per round, she can gain +3 to def for attack and energy ranged attacks. That's an active and a reactive, so she can just turn that on, or she can just wait to be attacked and successfully hit. Super jump, she has to choose to do it, obviously, it's not just always on. And the lasso of truth once per game. -4 to the speed and -2 to the defenses. John Jones, his base stats, his special abilities, attacks, and defenses, or special powers. Things like density shift, he turns on, and he can gain additional modifiers to his defense. Turn invisible once per game, and he can do various other mental as well as physical attacks that allow him to be pretty cool. 15 levels is quite high. Green Lantern Hal Jordan. So here we have our stats and our skills. The energy skill means that he gets to overpower an ability twice rather than only the once. We'll talk about overpowering when it happens. When you overload something, we might as well talk a bit about it now. You roll an extra dice on the attack, but sometimes you can do an additional effect. So if you've got overload homing, means you don't have to worry about line of sight. If you've got overload extra damage, you can do that instead. Or the standard overload where you get to just roll an extra dice up for the attack. Special abilities. Now the big guy himself. Superman. Heroic action, when he gets to his first actions of the game, he gets to have some additional effects. He's got resistance, so damage is reduced. But of course he's got a weakness to kryptonite. Few special powers. I've chosen this Superman as my card rather than the Henry Cavill or one of the other ones, just so that way I get a few extra models in, because some of the others are a bit more higher in level. And we're doing the Superman symbol, which gives us the +2 speed. So the other part to the card are these blue, the grey, light blue and the dark blue spots, and that's your health. So they're the health points that are attached as you take damage. We'll put a counter here and it moves down. Thus, and then in the pale zone, potential chance of knockouts with more chance down here, and eventually being knocked out completely. The team card says that there must be 3 or more of the following characters in the team. Of course, we've got all of them in, and 2 of those characters gain the defensive teamwork skill, and I have assigned that to Martian Manhunter and Hal Jordan, which means that if they are adjacent to any of the other team members, then there's a defensive bonus applied, but that doesn't double up if they're next to each other. Over on the bad guy side, led by Zoom. And what Zoom likes to do is find villains who are on the verge of dying, and in those tenths of seconds whisk them away for his own purpose, with the threat of putting them back exactly where he found them. So his abilities, as you can see, he's got lots of speed. He's got all of that, Agile, phase shift, scientific wall crawler. His attacks and his specials. So the thing with speedsters, they generally can't end up running out of all of their power. So they have to keep something in reserve. And there are ways of using your power for defense and offense. But with having to keep one left behind to avoid suffering the exhaustion rule, then he can't use all of the power up. Today we're playing with some additional Kryptonians. Namek, who's tough. And Faora, who's fast. She gets to make some additional movements. She's fast. She can only do it once per game, but she can hit hard. Of course, being Kryptonian. Of the 3 Kryptonians, only General Zod can fly, or has the fly trait and fly ability. They've all got a weakness to kryptonite, and all the 3 Kryptonians also come with this martial pride ability, which allows them to choose when to do the overload. If they need to before or after they roll the dice, they get to make that decision, which is pretty cool, because as you can see in Super Punch, when you overload it, it's +3 damage. When they attack and they hit, then they don't need to overload it for the dice, they can choose to overload it for extra damage, which is very cool. So all 3 of these Kryptonians have that as an ability. I've already factored in their power and their additional power for the Sword of Ra. And the other key thing is that they get +1 power. They've all got Rage 3. And when a friendly model makes an attack within 6 inches, the attack gains the Irresistible effect, which is also very dangerous, meaning no defenses can hold them back. This is the board we're playing with today. We have a few buildings. Now the buildings themselves are going to be immovable. They're not going to be removed or destroyed, which is a difference to some of these other games, because you're dealing with beings of ultra power. They're able to pick things up and throw them around. So the cars are 3s, the shipping containers are 4, so that's the amount of strength required to actually pick something up and throw it. It's a 3. You've got the SWAT van out the front of this building, dumpster at the back, some more cars, and so on. So you really want to have some reasonable terrain to put on the board for this game, so that way you can have something to throw around. If you choose to, you could still make the building not immobile, and Superman could pick up a building and throw it at someone, which is fine. You can do that if you want. Smaller buildings, yes, but not so much these sorts of buildings in my mind. No, not for this game. I need something to stay on the board. The street lamps can come out and be used as whacking tools. As soon as they get used once, they get destroyed. Same thing with the cars and the dumpsters and the shipping containers. We're running today with 6 rounds. So there are 6 dice for each side. The bag of Destiny. They'll both go in there, and we'll draw out one at a time. There's a bag of Destiny. And we'll draw out a token which will represent whose turn it is. The supervillains have something on their side. The Zod has the ability for a free pass, so he can opt to pass once for free, and also he has the order rule, which allows him to select someone to activate immediately after himself, which normally isn't the way. But yeah, all good. So this is the scenario we're working on today. Scenario 13, which is the big combat. So we put our two big guns in the middle. Player 1 and player 2 at the deploy 6 inches from the edge. And for the first round, the champions each get +2s on all their defenses. And we got some victory conditions just over here. So we'll arrange that, set that up. We roll off to see who puts out first, and then we'll work it from there. And we'll roll it off. We'll choose where player 1 and player 2 effectively are, and set the heroes up where they need to be. The two highest characters end up being Superman and Zod, which is iconic and thematic, and we'll take it from there. Okay. So we have our heroes. We have our champions. Boo, yes, we have our villains. And all the way over here we have the Puppet Master. Zoom. As I said, we got some scenery around, which is pretty good. Alright. Heroes being blue, the bad guys being red. Bad guys. So Zod is coming in with his punch attack, which will take him down to 7. Soups is going to spend a point to increase his defense by 2, which now gives him, with the first round bonus, it gives him a defense of 20. So on a 2d8, Zod needs to roll a 13 or higher to hit, because he has an attack of 7. Actually 12 or higher, it's got an attack of 8, moves up 1 point. And if necessary, he can opt to spend an extra point to either overload for +3 damage, or overload to add an extra dice roll. So Stoops has a defense of 20, and Zod is currently attack 8. So he misses. But if he wishes, he can spend the extra point, which he will do, to gain a successful strike, which is going to be a hit. But what we want is that. If 2 dice are the same, that is a critical, which means that there's an extra point of damage being done, or an option of one of the other effects. In this case, it's just a +1 damage. So Superman would take 4 damage in total, and his resistance of 2 brings that back down to 2 points loss. 1, 2. part of his order action, the next thing is for Faora to be activated, and she will move up 6 inches, spend 1 power on that, then spend 3 power on a grab and throw, with Wonder Woman being the target. We called this size 4, and that goes over here against Wonder Woman. She makes an agility check. If she fails, then she takes 4 damage. Wonder Woman's agility is 8, and she gets to re-roll it because of her acrobatics. She needs to roll under the 8, but she also gets to re-roll. So she makes 1 more attempt. Well, she gets her acrobatics check for 9, no, and she fails it. So she takes 4 damage from the thrown shipping container, and we'll take that on her health. That is all that Faora has on her cards at the moment, as nothing else is in range, and she's moved. We've removed the terrain piece that she threw, and she's more than 10 inches away from Superman. So now it's time for the Justice League. So Wonder Woman's activating next, and she is going to run for 9 inches, which I've pre-measured, puts her about there. It's hard doing this one-handed, by the way. And then she's super jumping 12, and then this I haven't pre-measured, but if I'm lucky, puts her in, yes, base to base with Zod, who gets +1 on, or +2 on his defenses for this round. Which puts her on the 4 mark, and she can attack. And I'm going to overload, adding the extra die, which will use up all 4 remaining points on her power left, and we're good to go. So that's a hit, but no crits. So she does 2 points of damage, irresistible, so there's no defenses. So Zod takes 2 damage. Zoom will go next, spending 2 points for his run to here. But he also has agility, which allows him to make a second maneuver, which he will do to move to the base of that building. So we'll spend the right power once we've measured up what we need to get to the base of that building. So to get there, cost 2 points for the run and 1 point for a walk, taking him to a total of 6. Hal Jordan moved, he flew, so that cost him 3 points to get to here. He's not going to do anything else, he's just biding his momentary time and position right there. So now it goes back to the bad guys, and they choose to use their free pass to flick it back to the last remaining member, Manhunter. So from here he's going to do a Sonic Blast against Zoom and overload it, so that takes him down to about 2 power, and we attack. John Jones' attack value is 6, needs a 16, and we're rolling 3d8, and it's a crit, which adds an extra damage. The side effect is also that 2 power comes off the target, so zoom is reduced as well, even further. So Namek moved his 7 inches for a run, and now he's going to heat vision Wonder Woman, opting to decide whether to overload and what to overload by, because he has a couple of options with his heat vision. May even have a zap on Superman, just pierce it through. Alright, let's get on with that, because she has 0 dice left for any of her defenses. Okay, so this is where the benefit of what Namek's trying to do with his powers. He's got an attack of 7, Wonder Woman is defense 16, and because Superman is also directly behind in the line of, like in a straight line, then he's in the way if Namek wants to overload it, to choose that option. So if his roll is decent enough on the attack, we use this. We could use this to hit 2 characters instead of just the 1. Alright, let's go. And then of course if there's a critical. So 15 plus his attack definitely hits both, and that's for his damage, and then we can work out whether it's necessary for Namek to overload to attack Supes. So it's Wonder Woman damage for 2. If he spent the extra point to overload, he can shoot through past Wonder Woman into Superman, but Superman has the resistance of 2, so there's no point in spending the extra power for no real net effect. So we'll just leave it at the 2 points for Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a couple pips away from being in the pale blue zone, and that could mean some potential knockouts. We're overloading Super Punch. We've got to get to Zod's 17 with his 6, and we make it. So Zod takes damage on that, which is good. Now Supes is going to go for a grab and throw on Zod, rolling an attack to hit. If he's successful, he needs an 11 or higher. If he's successful, then he can throw Zod for an extra 5 points of damage. And he is. So Zod was thrown into the building, which also means he's knocked down, and he's taken some damage from the punch and some damage separately from the throw. The damage from the throw is equal to 1 less than the thrower's strength. So Superman's strength 6 does 5 damage. He has a resistance of 2, so he takes 3 damage from that. He's done a super punch, which is 3 points of damage, which gives him, does an extra 1 damage from that. So between the punch, then the grab and throw, Zod's taken a bit of a punch. So Zod took 1 damage from the punch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the throw. That is the end of the round. We'll knock down 1 character and reset all of the powers to the values. Wonder Woman has regeneration, which knocks back up 1. And her and Superman have taken a couple of hits. Zoom and Zod also taking a bit of a hit. Round 2. And the bad guys go first again. Zod spent 1 power to stand up because he was knocked down. He couldn't afford to be down on the ground, so he needed to activate first. Then he was able to walk, which is 1 point, which now puts him down to 9 power. And here he's going to punch into Man of Steel and decide whether or not to overload once the dice has been rolled. So Superman's lost his first round advantage, so now he's down to his natural state of 16. With Zod's attack of 8, Superman is going to spend a point to up his physical defense, take it back up to 18, so he'll drop a power to do that. So Zod has to roll a 10 or higher on 2 dice with an option to overload. So 3. Okay, so he is going to overload. Cocked. And that's 4, that's nope. And that does happen on occasion. So what Zod could opt to do is roll another attack. And that would leave him with 0 power for any defenses, which he's not going to do. He will leave himself some power on the side in case he becomes the focus of other attacks. So with the order rule, he's got Namek to come forward, which has just happened to be just within 7 inches to get base to base with Wonder Woman and come in with a super punch of his own and potentially overload it to get past her defenses. So Wonder Woman has a defense of 16 and Namek has an attack of 8. Wonder Woman is not going to spend a power to increase her defense. But Namek is going to overload for the extra attack in order to hit. So he hit successfully Diana. She spends 2 power now to do an agility, which is an 8 or less, and she gets to re-roll it to use her shield, her once per turn ability to defend herself with her shield. Nope. And nope, so she takes that damage. Diana has moved into the first pip of the pale blue zone, and at the end of the round she will need to roll to see whether she's unconscious and gets KO'd. Then at the end of the round her regeneration kicks in, which will move her back up 1, so she'll regain consciousness. And since she has Rage 2, when she regains her consciousness, she will also have 2 additional power next round to really open up a can of whoop ass. So Hal Jordan moved just a little bit out, spending 1 for that. He's now going to do his once per game ability of the Gatling gun onto Namek, and overloading it with the ability to make it irresistible, so he'll take the full 5 damage. And also he's hoping that his willpower 12 will be enough to get through the defenses. So instead of using attack, he uses a willpower. His willpower is 12, and he makes it, doing 5 damage to Namek that he can't defend against. And Namek has no defensive ability to be able to block or to get out of the way of that sort of attack. So Faora super jumped, which just got her into base-to-base contact here. Now she's going to super punch and potentially overload if she needs to hit. Her attack is 8. Hal Jordan's like 15 or 16, we'll have a look in a sec. And if she does overload, then she has the options of the extra dice or doing more damage. And Hal Jordan has 2 points left that he can use to give himself resistance to for the rest of the round. That's a reaction roll, so he can just choose to do it. Hal Jordan's 15. Faora is 8. So she hits. She's going to overload for the extra 3 damage and minus the 2 resistance roll, minus 2 for the resistance action of Hal Jordan, who's now given himself a bit of a green shield, and we'll adjust the damage accordingly. So Hal takes a total of 4 damage and puts him square in the middle of the grey zone. John Jones is going up next. He's standing still, but he's doing 2 things. One is the psionic attack onto Zoom with overloading it, and the other is then using his once per round ability to paralyze Zoom's mind, meaning that he can't move unless he rolls a successful willpower check. So the overloaded attack so that's a successful hit with 2 damage and losing 2 power. And then he does a paralyzed mind attack, which forces Zoom to have to make a successful willpower check in order to move from his location. Zoom can't move. Well, actually, let's see if Zoom can move. First is his willpower check, and he's scientific, so he gets to re-roll it if he fails it. He needs an 8 or less, and he's got it. That's fine, so now he can move. So using his 15-inch move, and then because he's agile, gets a second move. He's base with Hal Jordan and coming in, taking a shot at our Green Lantern, overloading it. So attack 7, Hal Jordan's defense 15, and we're hoping for a crit, and we got one. So he does 3 damage to Hal, and Hal Jordan loses a pip of physical defense because of the special effect of the attack, and chooses to spend 2 points to give himself his resistance. What I did realize was that Faora was actually supposed to be able to be irresistible with her attack, so she did the additional damage to Hal. I gave him his 2 points back because there was nothing he could do to have spent to defend, but now he's spending those 2 points. So, and he'll take 1 damage from Zoom, and his physical defense is down by 1 for this round. The Sword of Ra ability gives these 3 Kryptonians, as long as they're within 6 inches of another Kryptonian, of their, their people, then their attacks become irresistible. So originally, he had already done the full damage, which didn't matter, and her attack would bypass any defenses. So Hal Jordan wouldn't have spent those 2 will previously. Now he has. So that's what we've done there. And now we've got the last 2 to act, which is Wonder Woman and Superman. So Wonder Woman is overloading her first attack against Namek, Sword of Athena, and she hits, doing 2 damage that he can't resist. And she does a second attack, but she can't overload it because you can only overload once per round, unless you're Hal Jordan or someone with the energy trait. So now she's doing a second attack, which she doesn't make. Zod's increased his defense to 17 by spending a point, and Superman's attacking with his flying punch with overloading it. So he needs an 11 or higher. He does, and he gets a crit because 2 7s. If you can see that. He also does a normal attack with his standard super punch. And misses that one. So the KOs that are most likely, we've got 1 for Zod and 1 for Wonder Woman. Both of them get to re-roll because they have the soldier trait. So Wonder Woman first, because why not? Ladies first. 5, she makes it. Because she has to roll under her stamina, which is an 11. And Zod also makes it. So they're both still currently up and running, and now we can move on from there with the rest of the end of round and get ready for the next round. Bag of Destiny. And it's the heroes. We'll do Martian Manhunter first. We'll use his telekinetic ability to throw this 3 object into Zoom, who has to make an agility check, and if he succeeds, fine. If not, then he takes damage. Then he's going to move and psionic attack Zod. The dumpster throw first against Zoom. Zoom gets a defense and he makes his agility roll. So nothing happens there. Martian Manhunter is going to overload to attack Zod. Zod has a defense of 14 against the mind attack. If Zod chooses to spend his point of defense to increase his defense by 2, he can't use it later if he thinks he's going to need it versus, say, a Superman or a Wonder Woman. So he's in the pale blue zones at the moment. He has to decide whether that's a risk he's willing to take. So basically, he's going to not defend against John Jones. And if John Jones gets a critical, then we're in the dark blues, which is an immediate knockout check. But if he doesn't get a critical, he's still in the pale blue zone. doesn't get a critical, so he takes the 2 damage. Because Zod has only a defense resistance for physical and energy, and the type of attack a Sonic is, it bypasses physical and energy. You'd need a resistance versus mental attacks. So Zod is on the edge of the power blue zone, and he's just lost 2 power. There's our Martian Manhunter. And now it's the enemy's turn. So Faora is going next. She has a once per game ability that allows her to attack, then move, and attack, and then move, as long as she can move within 6 inches of each attack. So she's doing her knife attack, and they're all irresistible. So none of the defenses will stick around, and we'll start with the rolls with the option, of course, of overloading should she need to. Hal Jordan has a defense of 15, and he is going to spend a point to up his physical defense by 2 to make it 17. So she needs a 9 or higher on her attack, and she makes it, inflicting 2 damage. She then moves immediately 6 inches to Wonder Woman, makes another attack, and Wonder Woman doesn't increase her defenses just yet, where that's also an attack. But what Wonder Woman will do is use her ability once per round to ignore the damage. Her agility is 8. She needs to re-roll that. No, so she takes the 2 damage and she can't use that ability for the rest of the round. And then Faora moves into Superman. And decides not to go any further with that. So she puts 2 damage on both Wonder Woman and Hal Jordan. So after that, it's now back to the heroes, and Hal Jordan will be next. So Hal moved just far enough away to be able to Green Blast Energy Professor Zoom, and he's going to overload that one to get past the higher energy defense, and then he's also going to follow that up with a physical attack with his green energy. And first one, the blast. 11, 16, yes, so that's a hit. Doing 3 damage to Zoom, and then the physical one, which Zoom's going to add power to increase his physical attack, and that's a miss on that one. So Namek comes up next, and he's going to overload his heat vision attack against Wonder Woman, because if he can pierce through, then he can hit Superman as well, and the irresistible effect means they both take 2 damage. Or he rolls and he hits Wonder Woman. 12. So Namek's attack goes to 18. And what Wonder Woman will do is spend 2 points on her bracelets, once per round bracelets ability. That gives her a defense of that to be able to block it, because if she used her normal one for 2 points, she wouldn't have been able to block it. But now Namek comes in with his standard punch. For his usual hit. She's already used her shield ability, so she can't use that. It's a physical attack, so she can't use her bracelets. So she just has to cop the damage of that. And he was overpowered. He was going to overpower the other one. But what he'll do is, since he didn't spend the overpower, and he can choose whether to overpower or not, he can now spend that overpower here, and he will spend that point to increase damage by 3. That's how the overload works. When you've got the 3 big Kryptonians, they do a great job in being able to manage this overload, and you can just pull it out exactly as you need it, which makes them very dangerous. So Diana's in a very dire situation. Now that Wonder Woman is in the dark blue zone, she needs to make an immediate KO check. And her stamina is 11, and she makes it. Which is good, because as a soldier, she can also re-roll that if she needed to. But she's up. She's still up. So Diana's coming up next, and she's coming in with an overloaded Sword of Athena strike against Namek, who spent her power to increase his defense to 17. 3, 6, 14, plus, yep, so she makes it, and it's a crit for an extra damage, so she inflicts 3 damage onto Namek, and then she spends her once per game ability Lasso of Truth on which is 3 power, and she chooses her target, and she's chosen Zod, and Zod now has -2 to his physical and energy defenses. So Zod goes next, who's going in with his once per game ability of his super attack. He's at 0 movement, so he can't move. The lasso effect is -4 on his movement. He only has a 4 standard movement, which brings him to 0, which means he cannot move. And now, since he's base to base with Superman, the only thing he can do is punch or heat vision or something along those lines. But he's going to do his once per game ability of super attack and potentially overload that as required, because Superman's going to spend a point on the physical to give himself an 18, might give him a huge adjustment. 7, yep, and to strike he's going to have to overload, which pretty much gives him an overload. Yep, done. And now he does his full 5 points of damage to Superman, because whilst he's within 6 inches of the others, which he is, it's irresistible. And that also takes a lot of power out of what he's got available, and he might still need that. Dark blue checks first for KOs. Wonder Woman, and she has to re-roll. Stamina's 11, and she makes it. So she's not KO. General Zod, and he makes it. Light blues, Al Jordan, and he's knocked out. Superman, and he's fine. Professor Zoom, I have to check. Nope, Zoom is knocked out. And Namek. Saved. So the state of play looks like this. Got a massive swab of people in here. with Jordan knocked out and Zoom knocked out. So they're out for the next round. And we're off. Bag of Destiny. Villains. Zod activates first, come in with a super punch. He's in lots of minuses because he's in the dark blue zone and he has to overload. Well, we'll figure that out in a second. And he's punching Superman with his super punch. 19 soups. Increases his defense physically. I'm just going to have to re-roll up here. I've dropped the die. And he hits, doing the 3 damage directly onto Superman. That puts Superman in the dark blues, which means he has to do an immediate check. And he makes his stamina check, so he's still up and running. So the order is for Faora to attack. So Faora comes in next. And she's got 2 points, 2 power to attack, potentially overloading. She needs 10s or higher. She doesn't get that one. So she overloads, inflicting 2 damage. Putting Superman on his last pip. She now has to get, so now he has to make a check for KO because he's taken damage, and he does. He's still okay. She comes in with her next attack because she's able to make about 3 attacks onto him. 10, that's enough, and they've KO'd Superman, giving them 2 victory points to the villain side. The heroes activate Martian Manhunter, who moves up into base-to-base contact with the fallen Zoom. Psy blasts Zod, and that's enough to inflict a KO on Zod, giving the heroes 2 victory points. And he super punches Zoom whilst Zoom is down for a hit, inflicting 2 damage. Namek attacks Wonder Woman. Eight, 18. And what she does is does her agility check to resist. Because even if she spent the points on her defense, didn't matter. And she makes her agility check, so she blocks the attack. But Namek can make 1 more assault. For an attack that is correct. Wonder Woman's on her last pip. So she gets to roll her stamina check, and she survives. So she's still up, but she's got her last hit point available to her. Deciding that super jumping out of the way was a much easier option, that's what she's doing. So she's up here with her last point of power. She's on her last dark blue, so she has to check for a KO at the end of the round anyway. And she'll also regain a pip. So now it's up to Zoom to wake up if he wants to try and wake up. He's knocked out, but he can still make a stamina check to try and wake up. And he wakes up. So he's knocked down, he spends a power, gets up, and he can, at least he's standing. So this is the turn of sequence that we've had so far. We're up to turn 5 out of 6. Now, basically, if the good guys go first, Martian Manhunter KOs completely and removes from the game Zoom. If the bad guys go first, then Namek will attack the fallen Hal Jordan, not reducing him any further realistically, keeping him still on the board. And Faora, who's not been attacked at all, she will launch an assault onto John Jones, who's also not had a single mark against him for the game. So turn 6, anyone who's in the pale zones still makes checks, she'll be fine. If Hal Jordan wakes up for turn 6, well, we're still stuck. This is going to be a draw, or it's going to be a very marginal victory for the heroes. So we'll just call it end here because it's been a while. But anyway, so yes, so that's a run through on the game, and it's been fun. So anyway, so like, subscribe, and all of that sort of thing. It was interesting to see how play worked out. Got a bit to and fro there. Thought it was going to be a bit one-sided to begin with, but even now it's not so much anyone's game, but it's fighting for a draw. I know that's fine for a game of cricket, but we sort of like results. But that's, yeah, so it's like Wonder Woman can stay up there and not be harassed because they can't fly. They might super jump up or fire a blast, but she's got enough defenses to be able to keep herself going. And she heals every round, so she's gone up to another pip, and so on. So Martian Manhunter is good to go. He's still raring. I actually thought it would come down to Diana, but it turns out the Martian Manhunter was the MVP. The sort of row where all three of them get to be irresistible when they're within 6 inches of each other, that's insane. But that is so cool and dangerous. I had a couple of instances where it would have been nice to have done an expansive attack, but the would have affected everybody. Anyway, like, subscribe, enjoy. Hopefully it's been good. We'll get onto some more of the games down the way. Alright, thanks very much everyone. Have a good one. Stay safe.